elected position to be in charge of deciding the insurance policies for the state. And insurance is really important to me because when the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2008, myself, I went from a private plan that I had on my own to being unable to get insurance based on the new government regulations. So I'm really excited to hear from Anthony on what he plans to do for Washingtonians. I think that's the right term. For what their insurance options are. So, Anthony, how about why don't you kick us off and tell me why running for Washington Insurance Commissioner? Why is that the race you chose that's important to you?
Well, it's the one that gets all the chicks, of course. It's the most talked about political race in all of the country, and I wanted fame and glory, so I thought I'd run for Insurance Commissioner. No, in all seriousness, I've got a similar story to you. My wife and I, we lost health insurance here in the state of Washington, or my wife did rather, and my 3-month-old son. Right after he was born, we got a notice from the insurance provider we had that we had spent some time researching and picking out specifically because it brought value to our lives. They were leaving the state of Washington. They were going to continue to do business in other states, but they weren't interested in being in Washington anymore. So, of course, that left us more vulnerable at a time when I had an infant, right? And there's likely medical expenses coming up, like as any
there's going to be a
parent
lot.
knows.
There's going to be a lot.
So, but there's so many people like you and I out there that aren't having their voices heard. Government touts all these wonderful things that they're doing, and they only show you the cherry picked data that makes them most electable, but they forget the downhill folks that are being harmed by all these terrible policies that have been passed over our lives. And that's why I'm running, is to make sure that everybody that's been harmed by government intervention has a voice to be heard.
So for a lot of people, what does the insurance commissioner actually do in a state? Like what is the role? Can you describe that?
Yeah, and we're lucky here in Washington. This is one of the few states that is an elected position. So we are lucky enough there to get to pick our ruler. But the insurance commissioner is a consumer protection agency, or at least that's what it claims to be. It's tasked with regulating insurance companies based on existing RCW legal rules and regulations. It's not a legislative position, so you won't get to see me passing bills or voting on them or anything of that nature. But I will have a lot of say internally in the department in which rules are written. And of course, I'll be the expert in our state capitol on this topic. And I know with my ideas for reform for insurance and healthcare that we can make Washington a more prosperous state. So I know that we can do good once we get into Olympia.
So you just said you'd be the state expert. So what makes you qualified to be that expert in the state of Washington? What's your background?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not bought and paid for, which is, unlike my incumbent that I'm going up against. 90% of his money comes from outside of the state of Washington. Roughly 50% comes in some form of corporate lobbyist insurance money or PAC money. And almost none of it comes from within Washington. So that right off the bat, he's not representing Washington. And 99% of my money comes from in-state, and 0 comes from PACs or corporate insurance lobbyists. So that's number one. What I think sets me aside is I'll be able to represent the people truly and honestly. But beyond that, I have a background in insurance, specifically property and casualty insurance is what I've done for a career. I'm licensed. I have 0 complaints against my license. The insurance commissioner that's in there now never even passed an insurance exam test. He was never working in the insurance industry, which is why, the system's even more broken now under his leadership than it was before he took control.
And he was in office before it was mandated that everyone had to buy it, correct? I think if I was looking at the race, he's been in there for quite a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, he championed that, and good intentions or corrupt intentions, I don't know. He'll have to answer that, someday. But it hasn't worked. It's the idea of fining people for not buying a private product is baffling for people that tend to hate corporations as much as they claim in their rhetoric. Why would you give that type of giant subsidy to the insurance companies? We just saw that in the Supreme Court ruling just about a month ago. We're gonna, as taxpayers, have to pay these insurance companies $16 billion in fees that were taken from people like you and I and people watching the show that didn't have it. So
Well, and then not even the insurance companies. How much of a cut is being taken by the government in administrative fees and taxes on top of it?
It's atrocious. I mean, even here, just at the state level, you're looking at $600 million alone in just a tax cut on the insurance premiums that are, on policies that are bought and sold in Washington. That doesn't include what a healthcare provider gets taxed. Often we hear rhetoric from the left that they want affordable health care, but yet we tax aspirin. The government taxes you for having a headache and taking medication to cure your headache. That's absolutely disgusting and needs to stop.
They got to give you the headache and then you take the pill to solve it and they make their money. It's part of the whole self-fulfilling cycle there. So what are some of the specific solutions that you think you are bringing to the table that your opponent is neglecting to even consider, at least? So what are some of the things that you are bringing to the table for the people in Washington?
Well, I mean, one of the most simple things and most popular things that we talk about is buying insurance across state lines. The idea that if you live in Idaho and then you move to Washington and you had a policy in Idaho that you liked for health insurance, that you then have to cancel that policy and start a new one. Just the transactional side of that costs time and money. That's not productive for society. That's the opposite of progressive. There is making people do more work to get less. Right. So we need to be able to open up to buy insurance across state lines just to allow some freedom and flexibility. I mean, we can buy potatoes from Idaho here in Washington. We can, import our cell phones from other countries. We can buy our car parts from other countries. But for some reason, we're stuck with buying insurance in one state. And that just isn't working. Similarly to that, medication. Right now, the price of medication is atrocious. It's driving up the cost of insurance. So we need to open up the market on healthcare as well to make it so you can buy medication from anywhere in the world that you want. There's a ton of developed countries out there that have incredible products that are healing people for a fraction of the cost of what we have here in America. We need to let Americans buy medical, supplies from anywhere in the world. Again, when we enter that competition in the market and that choice and that flexibility, we'll be more prosperous. We'll be a little bit more peaceful. And frankly, the cost will go down and it'll be drastic in an area where we know insurance is too expensive.
Careful, you're talking way too much sense for a politician. I'm questioning your motives here. It makes way too much sense. No,
I'm only going to leave you alone.
No, it seems like common sense. If there's a market out there and someone's willing to sell a product, and I should be able to go buy it if it solves the need. I was listening to an interview, I think last year, when they were discussing the Washington insurance epidemics. There's whole industries in your state just trying to help people figure out how to sign up for one company. Like, it's one company offering a service, and there's whole industries around helping people sign up for it because it's so complicated. What could you do to streamline that for people in your state?
Well, take it out of the government control first and foremost. I mean, we all know going to the DMV is a pain in the you-know-what. We all know anytime you have to deal with taxes, it's a pain in the butt. Anytime you deal with a government agency, it's pain and suffering. It's time that we acknowledge that instead of continuing to repeat it, we try some alternative solutions. And, this doesn't have to be complex. So Forbes put out an article today ranking, I think, car insurance providers on their mobile applications, right? And government simply can't keep up with the times from a technology standpoint, right? Even things like teleconferencing and Zooms and videos like this, right? They're having to learn how to do that because of COVID. Whereas, what I've been talking about telecommuting for years as a way to decentralize the department and make sure that there's employees accessible to the consumers and the voters, most importantly, in all areas of the state, instead of that one centralized office in Olympia, where if you live more than a couple hours away, you might have to take a day off of work to go have your voice heard. So there's so much we can do from a technology standpoint to streamline things. To help with transparency and accountability that, a 40-year career politician that's on his way to retirement, he can't keep up the pace with what the average consumer demands nowadays. Just that quick turnaround, that Airbnb, that Uber mentality. We need somebody in office that has an eye on the future and can even understand these conversations.
So you've got someone in there that has a lot of the it works good enough mentality, and they're not actually going to work for changes. So even in the situation here, if they haven't provided provisions for telecommuting, there's no way to actually get a hold of someone in the office then, because if they're not working there. I ran into the same thing going to the DMV. And Elliot Shearman, I spoke with out of Texas yesterday, he proposed a similar solution about allowing voting to go on in Texas almost at Kroger, like, because they can register their tags at Kroger. There's a whole ID database and infrastructure there. And I think there's a lot of out-of-the-box thinkings that libertarians are proposing out there these days.
Yeah, and to be clear, the office is open now. I don't know if I misspoke slightly in there somewhere. I'm not sure, but they are open. It just, they're slow on the uptake there, and I would have had things like this already in place. It just would have made the transition easier, and it just shows the forward thinking that we have. And I mean, frankly, even on voting that you mentioned, people are concerned that their votes are being tampered with. That's a reasonable concern. They're afraid of gerrymandering. That's a reasonable concern. Libertarians are afraid of this kind of stuff too. Presidential debate access, right? To where, our candidates aren't heard on the debate stage, which, harms democracy. So these are shared values that libertarians have with Republicans and conservatives. Libertarians just have the forward thinking. So in respect to voter issues, we need to start looking at things like blockchain, right? We can do that on a national level. To make sure that when your vote is cast, not only can you check to see that it was counted, but that you can actually see who it was counted for, right? We have
verified and it's immutable.
There's chain of custody that you can look at, and this is simple stuff that a 40-year career politician just isn't going to be able to have that conversation. And I know that if we don't catch up to the times, I mean, we're probably already 20 years too late, frankly. If we're reacting at this point, the way technology changes, we're probably already too late. But, we can bring in some new thoughts and at least get the conversation rolling.
So along the lines of new thoughts and conversation, I know one of the things that you're very passionate about is helping build the state infrastructure during your campaign. You spend a lot of time on the road campaigning. And a lot of your focus isn't always necessarily even on yourself. So what sort of things are you doing to help grassroots organizations build up around the state of Washington? And what can people around the country do to help?
The key is to try to stay energized as much as you can. Politics, we understand, especially as a libertarian, is a lot of hard work. We're not gifted the same system that the other parties have. And because of it, we have to work harder. And there is a market here. It's a corrupted crony market. But if libertarians are all about free market capitalism, right, we need to get to work and really earn the trust of the voters. And I think by what we need to do is we need to be active in our communities frequently. That means hosting consistent meetings, right? If you're a county chapter, right, we need to be consistent in how frequent those meetings are so that membership can rely that, hey, it's once a month on the same day of the month, and it's not going to skip over 2 or 3 months and I might miss a meeting. And when you do that, you'll be more productive, I find, and you'll be able to get more street fairs planned and more parades planned. You'll bring in new people, right? Because they know that if they show up on a Thursday, you'll actually be there. Because it says on the calendar you'll be there, and you actually showed up, right? I've heard of many chapters, right? So people no show, and the next thing you know, you're like, hey, where's the meeting today? We need to be consistent in our activism, and from a infrastructure standpoint, even just my volunteers here at this point, right? There's so many of us that are new. I've never run for office before. I've got people on my staff that have never done graphic design before for a presidential, I've got Jo Jorgensen on my mind. She's coming to town this weekend. They've never done graphics designs for a political campaign, but they like art and they like graphic design, right? So we're giving them a place to put their passions, the things that they're already good at, to another
stamp
passion.
their mark on it.
Right. Yep. And when we do that, people buy in. Right, they stay committed volunteers, and I think people generally enjoy what they're doing more. So that's been a focus of mine. Is just giving people an opportunity to have a campaign to work for, to where they can develop their skills. Even our door knocking stuff, right? We've got a new app here. We're working with the National Party on an e-canvasser app, that the state party in Washington, the national party, have kind of helped subsidize for us. So we can now upload our voter data into this app and get volunteers out. Even through my primary election here, we're working out kinks that will help down ballot candidates later in the general election or even our presidential ticket come November. So, the more practice we get, the more times we trial and error and fail, the better we get, the better we'll level up. As long as we're willing to learn through those mistakes and take ownership for them and realize it's like, hey, it's okay if only 2 people showed up for a sine wave. What could we have done better so that next time we get 6, right? And just take it as a challenge, take it as an opportunity to grow. Republicans and Democrats, they might have bigger events. It's just because they have a bigger donor list to pull from, a bigger email list to pull from. We just have to create that.
And a lot of times they're getting funding from out of state entities, and I don't think I've ever run into a libertarian situation where we've had a massive influx of some company gave us $20,000 to hold an event. It's the people at the event that self-funded the event most of the time, and it's a lot of fun. I know for me and for people out there, if you want to get involved in a local candidate's campaign, it's a lot of fun. Making a social media post, as you said there, getting someone who's very artsy, making a social media post and seeing it go out there and make a difference and starting a conversation is a really powerful way to, motivate someone. So get involved with local candidates is extremely critical, I think, for everyone.
And money is awesome, but frankly, and I average $75,000 without a donor list. I've created that 75 off of, hardworking average people that donate in about $50 a person. But truly it's the people that make the campaign, the people that are willing to sacrifice some family time, right? Knowing that they're going to get some good return on their investment. The people that skip out on, a baseball game to go sign waving, right? That stuff's not always fun, but I encourage people to realize how impactful those couple of hours every few weeks is. It makes a huge, tremendous difference. So no matter what part of the country you're in, I just encourage you to find a campaign that you can get behind, find something that you enjoy doing and see if you can help them with that. And this whole movement will level up from there.
And I'll try and remember to add it in the show notes here. But if you guys go to lp.org and go to 2020 candidates, you can see a list of candidates in your area, or go to your local state affiliate and just find a way to get involved. Sharing posts on social media is great, but that campaign may need you to pick up the phone and make a phone call or go and knock on some doors. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get involved. And I don't know about you, but the more you get involved, that I get involved in a campaign, the more I feel proud of any success that it comes about, because you feel like you make a difference in it.
The more you'll find how necessary this is, because I've been traveling full time for about 10 months now, campaigning for almost 3 years total. There are so many people suffering. Even through my narrow topic of insurance, which is actually broad, it hits your home insurance, your health insurance, your life insurance, your car insurance. There is so much bad out there right now that it's just been truly eye-opening and disappointing, frankly, but it's really been convicting of, why I'm doing this and why our party is so important, because it's our activists and our ideas that can really bring some happiness back into people's lives, take a little stress off their table, put a little more money in their bank account, right? We're not God here, but there is so much broken in this two-party system and this government that we have that we need our activists to stay active, get committed, find somebody that they can help with.
And I don't know about you, but I'm sure you've seen it in your spot where you meet someone who is frustrated, and you offer them that you take the time to listen to their problems, and you can present a solution that gives them a little bit of hope. You can almost see it come to life in their eyes too when they realize that someone cares. So being the party that's here to fight for everyone is the opportunity to show them that we are here to care, and that we're not just, out against the government and here for guns and drugs or whatever the perception is. We're here to help individuals get through what they need in life. And I think it's an important message to keep out there. Well, I really appreciate you coming in. I want to give you a chance here. Is there any closing arguments, or I guess not arguments, but any statements that you really want people to know about your campaign? What do you need? Do you need donations? Do you need volunteers? What is it that we can do for you?
Yeah, well, argument would be fun, actually. The incumbent's not willing to debate me. Go figure. A 40-year career politician is turning down multiple opportunities to show up to events. But that's okay. We're exposing him for it. We're keeping a scorecard. We're publishing it. We're showing the people how unresponsive and unreliable he is. And that's a message that resonates with all political ideologies. Everybody wants better representative government. And what we've been able to do through our campaign is legitimize the Libertarian brand. We've been able to build coalitions. I'm getting support from tons of organizations in Washington, nonprofit organizations, different endorsements. Fair Vote Washington's endorsed me. Different hunters organizations have endorsed me. And it's because our message of liberty and specifically the solutions are resonating. So I tell that to everybody because this is an extremely important race for the Libertarian Party. I have an opportunity to become the highest person ever elected as a Libertarian. It's a statewide executive role. I have quadrupled the fundraising of the 40-year career politician. I've raised $75,000 to his less than 20. I'm won the one reader poll that was done in a kind of a purple district out here. And there's a Republican on the ballot who, frankly, the Republicans are supporting me because he's not well. If you check out his voter statement, you'll understand what I mean. That's all I'm going to say. But he's not out campaigning or fundraising either. So we've got a 40-year career politician on the ropes. We've got the third-party guy that is the first guy in decades to even give this race any airtime. And we're going to take it to him. So I need your help on social media, liking, sharing our posts. You can find me with the Be Free slogan or hashtag Welti forWA. My website is anthonywelti.com. If you're in Washington, I specifically need your help handing out flyers and making phone calls. Phone calls, though, can be made from anywhere over in the world, frankly. We can get you connected on our auto dialer system. We can give you some coaching and some encouragement. That stuff you can bring back to your local affiliates. And, of course, most importantly, because we are so close to primary, I need to raise money. You can donate on my website. Like I said before, I've taken zero PAC money. I've taken zero corporate lobbyist money. And we still hit $75,000. I raised $10,000 in 3 days a couple of weeks ago. But we've got a couple other projects we're trying to get done in about the next 2 weeks before the primary election, because I don't want to lip through the primary. My goal is to actually win the primary, because if we do that, this summer's going to be like free rolling at the crafts table. It's going to be a heck of a lot of fun running as a front runner for a statewide election as a Libertarian. And, any energy, excitement that this party has right now, I just want to amplify that through our message here in Washington and just be a vessel of liberty for this entire party. So, that's what I got. I'm here to help if anybody's got questions about their campaigns or insurance, want to share resources, reach out to me, anthonywelti.com or my Facebook, Twitter, anywhere. I'll respond.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here, Anthony. And for those of you guys, you heard him there. Let's get out there. Let's get some Welti for Commissioner memes going in the meme groups. Let's get some donations going. Go to his website. Link's going to be in the description. And let's get Anthony elected to be the highest elected official in this election. Well, actually, I hope you're not. Let me put it that way.
Yes,
I hope we get a lot more in this year's Gold Wave or Gold Rush. Some people are saying I should get rid of Gold Wave and get Gold Rush in there.
I like them all.
Anthony, once again, thank you for having you here. And for those of you guys here, I have Brad Barron scheduled for Thursday and some more interviews coming up. Possibly another one tomorrow night. So thank you all for being here and have a good night, and make sure that you vote gold this November. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Be free.